Setting out a building plan on ground is one of the most significant steps in building construction, and any errors at this stage would cause considerable problems if it's not tackled immediately. I always say that construction is pretty much like a domino effect. If you don't do right the first thing, then the things coming up next are gonna suffer from it. So in this video, we're gonna see how to prevent errors during setting out building plans on the ground. Greetings to all the builders out there. My name is Jesus Arroyo. I'm an architect building in Mexico, and pretty much this is Planos Constructivos, a place where we talk about construction, architecture, and all the things related to it. So there are different types of errors that might be made when a structure is set out. For example, gross errors, systematic errors, and random errors. These errors or mistakes should be prevented, and there are some measures to tackle these issues. This measure will be discussed in the following video. So pretty much you gotta check out for good practices in office, on the site control, equipment of the staff, checks, marking the ground, and the use of grid offset. A good practice in the office, to successfully set out the building, it is necessary to complete office works with great accuracy. The drawing should be the latest version, and if there are any changes in the drawing, it should be checked whether it influences the work in the field or not. It is required to examine and explore the quality of information. For example, the dimension should be checked and confirmed with the structural dimensions to make sure that it is realistic. It is recommended to conduct calculation by two independent individuals, since the person who checked the first computation might follow procedures and does not notice any errors. If a program is used to do calculations and solving problems, the user should know the problem well and have information that the software does work. The user also needs to understand the results adequately, otherwise unacceptable errors could occur. Now, when it comes to on-site control of setting out errors, it is required to check both primary baseline and benchmarks to make sure that they are accurate. Approximate setting out might be used for excavation, but such work with such quality cannot be accepted for concrete work, which requires considerable accuracy. It is advised to continuously check concrete benchmark station, since they can be damaged by excavations or people pretty much walking around and not seeing what's going on around. Pretty much they can move the threads or the laser pointer or something like that. So you gotta be extra careful with those signals or the benchmarks that you put on the site. It is also it should be guaranteed that correct stations are used during working, and this can be done by noticing and observing stations or by taking measurements to adjacent station. I always advise to all my workers and crew that they double check all the measurements before starting any walls or anything like that, because from one day to another it could happen lots of things, like wind. It could be dogs running around. Here in Mexico we have a lot of dogs on the street, or cats or whatever, so you gotta be extra careful with those things, especially here in the Mayan Riviera. We have monkeys and stuff like that. Also, the equipment and staff, after accurate calculations at the office are finished and good control is obtained at the construction site, it is considerably crucial to use a suitable instrument and experienced staff to carry out the work and get the required accuracy. You gotta check to prevent setting out of errors, and it is recommended to do cross checks to specify any errors that have been made. For example, when a rectangular shape is set out, diagonals should be computed prior to the works to determine errors during the work on the field. You can do the Pythagoras formula, or cross checks need to be used for completed works to examine their accuracy and find out errors in the work if any exist. It is advised to begin setting out for the major control lines and then proceed to the other parts of the building to prevent accumulative errors. It is also recommended to establish secondary control points from the main control point instead of using other secondary control points to set a new one. This is because any error in one secondary control point would be repeated for other points and might increase. For example, once the house is set out, it's preferably to set out each house from the main control point rather than from another house, since errors would cause considerable issues. In this case, there might not be enough space for the last house to be set, because they can move, one error and then it accumulates. So you gotta be extra careful for that. So use common sense at the end of the work. It is the last check that should not be avoided, because great mistakes can be noticed and considerable cost could be saved. Now, marking the ground for building set out. It is recommended to use mark setting out using proper means to make it easy to understand. The setting out would not serve any purpose if it cannot be understood by the user. The information provided on setting out should be adequate, and the provision of too much information needs to be avoided. It is advised to ask the person that will use the setting out and find out what he wants about the work. It is possible to use marks and expiations along the lines on the wall unless it is a finished surface. Regarding of offsets, they should be sensible and proper dimensions shall be used, such as 1000 millimeters. It might be requiring to explain the setting out by the individual who carried out the work for a person who is going to use the setting out. So pretty much they can talk about it if they have any modifications, or because when you do some things by yourself, you can pretty much understand yourself very much, but not other people, so that they had to explain it themselves. Now, use the grid offset. It is required to offset grid line from actual position to a new side of line to keep the line of sight as clear as possible. This offset is recommended to be adequately large to account for size of columns and formworks. Errors in out of square tapping would be insignificant if the offset is kept small to a practical limit. In summary, no matter how many offsets are established, it should not cause errors at construction site. Regarding change in offset, the variation should be obvious and clear, such as a meter or a half of meter, sometimes a centimeter is not that much. So you gotta be extra careful with those things and establish tolerances, but not so much. So at the end of the day, you gotta be extra careful and see where you can compensate all those measurements if there are any changes. Well, so this is it. Thank you very much by seeing us. Thank you for your likes and subscribers, and see you around for more videos like this about construction here in Mexico.